Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going deep, like way deep, to explore something pretty incredible.
Sounds exciting.
It is. We're talking all about geothermal energy.
Geothermal, huh?
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. And get this, our guide for this journey is this fascinating report by the International Energy Agency.
IEA.
Yep, exactly. The IEA. They just published it last month, and it's called The Future of Geothermal Energy.
Okay. I'm intrigued already.
And you should be. This report is like mind-blowing, you know? It's not just about like hot springs and stuff.
Oh, it's more than just hot tubs.
Way more. We're talking about how geothermal could be a major player in the whole clean energy transition.
That's something I want to hear about, the future of energy.
Exactly. And we're going to get into all of that. But first, I think we should start with the basics.
Yeah, good idea. Back to basics.
You know, just in case anyone out there hasn't been on a hot springs vacation recently.
Right. Not everyone's soaking in geothermal pools on the regular.
Right, exactly. So can you remind us what exactly is geothermal energy?
Sure. Geothermal energy, it's basically, it's heat, you know?
No.
But it's heat that comes from the Earth's core. It's always radiating out towards the surface.
So like we're standing on a giant heater.
Kinda, yeah. And we can tap into that heat, that natural heat, and use it for all sorts of things, like heating buildings.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of geothermal heat pump.
Exactly, heat pumps, but also cooling buildings.
Oh, really? I didn't know you could do that with geothermal.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You can use it for cooling, too,
Mm-hmm.
and, of course, generating electricity like we were talking about.
Wow, so it's really versatile.
It is, and unlike those, fossil fuels, geothermal energy, it's renewable and sustainable.
That's good. Sustainable is key.
Right, because it's constantly being replenished.
By the Earth's core.
Yep, by the Earth's internal processes.
Okay, that makes sense. So we don't have to worry about, like, running out of geothermal energy anytime soon.
Nope, no worries there.
Okay.
The Earth's heat, it's basically a vast, almost inexhaustible resource.
That's reassuring.
Right. It's a good feeling knowing we have this incredible energy source right beneath our feet.
I know. I remember learning about geothermal energy in, I think it was middle school.
Haha, classic school topic.
It was. And I remember all those pictures of Iceland, you know, with the geysers and all the volcanic activity.
Oh, yeah, Iceland. They're like the geothermal pioneers.
Exactly. And they use it for, like, everything. Heating, electricity.
Pretty much their entire country runs on geothermal.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, they're kind of a special case, though, right? I mean, they have all those volcanoes and hot springs and stuff.
True. Iceland is definitely unique. And what they're doing, the report calls it conventional geothermal.
Okay, conventional geothermal. That makes sense.
Basically what it means is they're tapping into these naturally occurring hydrothermal reservoirs.
Hydrothermal reservoirs, what are those exactly?
So imagine hot water and steam that's trapped underground.
Okay, like a natural underground boiler.
Exactly. And it's a proven technology. Like I said, Iceland's been doing it for decades, and they're not the only ones.
Oh, so other countries use conventional geothermal too.
Yeah, definitely. But it is limited to specific locations, you know, places where those reservoirs are close to the surface.
I see. So that's why it's not more widespread.
Yeah, partly. But here's the exciting part.
Okay, tell me.
There are new technologies coming out, emerging technologies, and these could make geothermal accessible almost anywhere.
Really? Almost anywhere?
That's what the report says, yeah. And this is where things get really interesting. They call it next generation geothermal.
Next generation. Okay, I like the sound of that. What exactly makes it next generation?
Well, for one thing, they go deeper, much deeper than conventional geothermal.
Oh, wow. Even deeper into the earth.
And they don't need those pre-existing hydrothermal reservoirs.
So you don't have to be in, like, Iceland to use it.
Exactly. You could be, well, practically anywhere.
Wow, that's incredible. And what are these next generation technologies called?
There are a couple of main ones. There's enhanced geothermal systems.
Enhanced geothermal systems. That sounds pretty high tech.
It is. And then there's advanced geothermal systems, or AGS for short.
Okay, EGS and AGS. Got it.
So with EGS, imagine you're drilling deep into the earth, into these hot rocks, and then you create artificial reservoirs by fracturing the rock.
So we're kind of making our own hydrothermal reservoir.
Yeah, exactly. We're kind of giving Mother Nature a helping hand.
That's pretty amazing.
It is. And then with AGS, it's a totally different approach. We use these closed-loop systems.
Closed loop, okay.
So instead of like directly accessing the hot water, we just extract the heat.
Kind of like a giant underground heat exchanger.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
This is blowing my mind. So with these next generation technologies, geothermal could be a truly global resource.
That's the idea, yeah. The potential is massive. The report estimates that it could be like thousands of times greater than conventional geothermal.
Thousands of times. That's insane.
I know, right? It's pretty mind-boggling.
Okay, I'm definitely starting to see why you were so excited about this report, but there's one thing I don't quite get.
What's that?
It says here that the oil and gas industry is getting involved in geothermal. Why?
Oh, yeah, I know. It seems a little weird, right?
Well, kinda. I mean, why would they be interested in clean energy?
Well, think about it this way. The oil and gas industry, they have decades of experience, right?
Yeah, and drilling and all that stuff.
Exactly. Drilling, well, stimulation, subsurface engineering, all those skills, they're super valuable for geothermal energy.
Oh, so the expertise they've developed from extracting fossil fuels can now be applied to, like, clean energy.
Exactly. It's a perfect fit. And it's a win-win situation, really. The oil and gas industry, they get to use their existing skills and infrastructure in a new market.
Right, because they're probably looking for ways to transition as the world moves away from fossil fuel.
Exactly. And then the geothermal industry benefits from all their experience and resources.
So it could really accelerate the development of geothermal energy.
That's the hope, yeah. Plus, the report says that their involvement could significantly reduce development costs.
That's great. Lower costs would definitely make geothermal more competitive.
For sure. And it's kind of cool to see, even traditional energy companies are starting to recognize the potential of geothermal.
It's like they're turning over a new leaf, helping us move towards a cleaner energy future.
Yeah, I like that. It's definitely
Yeah.
a positive sign.
I'm curious, who would benefit the most from this whole, geothermal boom?
Well, the report actually looked into that.
Mhm.
And they found that China, the U.S., and India have the most to gain.
Really? Those three countries?
Yep. It has to do with their geology, their energy demand, and their resources. They're like the perfect candidates for large-scale geothermal projects.
Wow, so this could actually shift the balance of power in the global energy landscape.
It definitely could, yeah. The report says that China alone could potentially meet a significant portion of its electricity needs with geothermal.
That's a huge deal. That would have major implications for, global energy security and climate change.
For sure. It's a really exciting prospect.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. I knew geothermal was cool, but I had no idea it had this much potential.
Right. And this is just the beginning. We've only scratched the surface of what geothermal can do.
I can't wait to dive deeper. Where should we go next?
Okay, my mind is officially blown. Geothermal energy could really be a game changer, especially with these next generation technologies you've been describing.
Yeah, it's got a ton of potential.
But I have to admit, I'm still a little fuzzy on how it all stacks up, against other clean energy sources.
Oh, you mean how does it compare?
Yeah, could geothermal actually compete with, say, solar or wind or even nuclear power?
That's a great question. And actually, the IEA report, it digs into the economics of next-generation geothermal.
Oh, cool. They did a cost analysis.
Yeah, they compared it to those other technologies. And what they found is that if we can bring construction costs down, geothermal could become one of the most competitive sources of clean electricity.
Construction costs. So you're talking mainly about the drilling, right? Yeah, drilling and all the infrastructure that goes along with it.
Because once you've got that heat source tapped, it's like you have free fuel 24/7.
Exactly. And that's a huge advantage over solar and wind power.
Right. Because they're dependent on the weather, right?
Yeah, exactly. The sun's not always shining, the wind's not always blowing, but geothermal, it's always there, running 24/7.
So it's super reliable.
Yeah, super reliable. It can provide that baseload power that we need, to keep the grid stable, even when those other renewables aren't producing as much.
Okay, I'm starting to see the big picture here. Geothermal could be the perfect partner for solar and wind, right?
Absolutely. It could help balance out those fluctuations and create a more resilient energy system.
I like that resilient energy. That's what we need.
Yeah, for sure. And the report, they modeled different scenarios for the future energy mix, trying to figure out how all these different sources could fit together.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they found that even in a world where solar and wind, they continue to grow rapidly, there's still a huge role for geothermal.
So it's not like an either situation. It's more like an and situation.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about finding the right mix.
Okay, I'm sold on geothermal's potential for electricity. I get it.
Good. That here.
But the report, it also talks about all these other amazing uses for geothermal, right? Like heating and cooling buildings.
Yeah, I know.
And like powering industrial processes, even whole district heating systems for cities. Let's dive into that side of things for a bit.
Sounds good. Yeah, geothermal isn't just about electricity. It's an amazing source of heat, right? And the IEA report, they actually found that direct heat applications have enormous potential for decarbonizing those sectors that traditionally rely on fossil fuels.
Like buildings and industry, right?
Exactly. Think about it. Instead of burning natural gas to heat our homes and factories, we could be tapping into the Earth's natural warmth.
I mean, it just makes sense, right? Using the Earth's heat to heat our stuff.
Yeah, it's super efficient. And imagine, entire cities with district heating systems, all powered by geothermal energy.
That would be amazing. And what about industry? Could they use geothermal heat too?
Definitely. There are tons of industrial processes that need heat, and a lot of them could switch over to geothermal.
Okay, I'm seeing the potential here, but can you give me a sense of scale? Like, how much energy are we actually talking about?
Okay, so the report, they estimate that the global potential for geothermal heat is massive, especially for these things called sedimentary aquifers.
Sedimentary aquifers. Okay, you're going to have to explain that one.
So basically, sedimentary aquifers, they're like layers of rock, porous rock.
Porous, like with holes in it?
Yeah, kind of. So think of like sandstone, right? And these rocks, they contain water.
Okay, so it's like underground water reservoir.
Yeah, and if we go deep enough, we can find these aquifers that have temperatures, like exceeding 90 degrees Celsius.
90 degrees Celsius, that's hot.
Yeah, it's definitely hot enough for a lot of industrial processes and for heating buildings, for sure.
Wow, okay, I'm starting to get it. But how much energy are we talking about from these aquifers?
Okay, get this. The report estimates the global potential to be around 320 terawatts.
320 terawatts, I don't even know what that means.
It's a big number. To put it in perspective, the global energy consumption in 2023, that was around 170 terawatts.
So geothermal heat from these aquifers alone could supply like almost double our current global energy needs.
Yeah, theoretically.
That's insane. But how does geothermal heat stack up against, other clean heating options? Like what about bioenergy or heat pumps?
That's a good question. And the report actually compares the costs and benefits of all these different technologies.
Oh, cool. I'd be curious to see that breakdown.
Yeah, that's pretty detailed. But basically what they found is that geothermal heat can be very competitive.
Especially in places that have good geology, right?
Yeah, exactly. Places with favorable geology, but also, places with strong policy support.
So it really comes down to location, just like with conventional geothermal.
Yeah, there are definitely some parallels there.
But what about those next generation technologies like EGS? Could they make geothermal heat more accessible? Even in places where the geology isn't ideal?
That's a great question. And yeah, that's one of the most exciting things about EGS. It has the potential to really expand the reach of geothermal heat and make it a viable option for a lot more places.
So we could heat like entire cities with geothermal.
Potentially, yeah. And another thing the report highlights is that a shift to geothermal heat could free up sustainable biomass resources for other uses.
Oh, interesting. So we wouldn't have to rely as much on wood or crops for energy.
Exactly. Because right now, there's a lot of competition for those resources, especially as we try to scale up bioenergy.
And we need those resources for other things, right? Like food production.
Exactly. So geothermal heat could be a way to decarbonize heating without putting extra pressure on those other sectors.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. This is all sounding really promising. But the report, it also mentions some risks and challenges with geothermal, right? Like, what are some of the downsides?
Yeah, it's important to acknowledge those, for sure. One of the main challenges is the risk of induced seismicity.
Induced seismicity, what's that?
Basically, it means the possibility of triggering earthquakes.
Earthquakes from geothermal energy.
Yeah, it's a potential risk. When you drill into the earth or inject fluids into the ground, it can sometimes cause tremors.
So it's kind of like the concerns people have about fracking.
Yeah, there are some similarities. But the good news is that the risk of induced seismicity can be mitigated.
Oh, good. How so?
Well, with careful planning, and using advanced monitoring technologies.
So we can kind of keep an eye on things and make sure it's safe.
Exactly. And of course, strict adherence to safety protocols, that's super important.
Yeah, we don't want to solve one environmental problem by creating another.
Right, exactly. We need to be smart about it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So induced seismicity, that's one challenge. What are some of the others?
Well, permitting can be a challenge,
Yeah.
getting all the necessary approvals to build geothermal plants.
Oh, yeah. I bet that can be a long process.
It can be. And then there's public perception. Sometimes people get concerned about the potential impacts of geothermal.
Right, like the earthquakes we were just talking about.
Exactly. So there's a need for education and outreach,
Wow.
to make sure people understand the risks and benefits.
Okay, that's important. And what about the technology itself? Are there any, technological hurdles that we need to overcome?
Yeah, there's always room for improvement, right? One area of research that's particularly exciting right now is what they call super hot rock systems.
Super hot rock. That sounds intense.
It is. We're talking about tapping into these extremely deep, high-pressure rock formations.
Okay, way down there in the Earth's crust.
Yeah, the temperatures down there, they can reach well above 373 degrees Celsius.
Wow, that's like the boiling point of water.
Yeah, and at those depths, water exists in this, supercritical state.
Supercritical. What does that mean?
It means it's neither a liquid nor a gas. It's kind of this in-between state, and the energy potential of these super hot rock systems, it's enormous.
That sounds pretty futuristic.
It is. It's definitely pushing the limits of our current technology. But the rewards could be huge.
Okay, I'm intrigued by this super hot rock idea, but I imagine there are some serious technical challenges involved, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's not easy to drill that deep, and the conditions down there are extreme.
Yeah.
So we need to develop new materials, stuff that can withstand those temperatures and pressures.
Right, because regular drilling equipment would probably melt down there.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But it's an exciting challenge. And if we can crack it, it could really be a game changer.
Okay, I'm definitely going to keep an eye on this super hot rock research. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
We're back to reality.
The report, it also talks about this other crazy concept, geothermal energy storage.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Can you explain how that works and why it's so important?
Sure. So geothermal energy storage, it basically involves using underground rod formations to store excess energy.
Like as a giant battery?
Kinda, yeah. You can store it as heat or even as mechanical energy using pressurized water.
Okay, so it's like a giant natural battery buried deep beneath the surface.
Exactly. And this type of energy storage, it's super important. As we're transitioning to a grid that relies more on variable renewables.
Like solar and wind, right?
Yep, exactly. We need a way to store that energy when the sun's not shining or the wind's not blowing, so we can ensure a reliable and consistent energy supply.
Makes sense. It's like a backup system.
And geothermal storage, it could be a key part of that solution.
This is incredible. Geothermal, it's way more versatile than I ever imagined. But if it has all this potential, why isn't it already more widely adopted?
That's the million-dollar question. And the report, it actually lays out a roadmap for overcoming the barriers.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's the roadmap?
Well, it boils down to three main things: policy, innovation, and collaboration.
Policy, innovation, collaboration.
Got it. Can you expand on those a bit?
Sure. So first, policy. We need governments around the world to prioritize geothermal energy, in their energy policies.
So more funding for research and development. Exactly. More funding, more incentives for geothermal projects.
Yeah.
And streamlined regulations, that make it easier to build these plants.
Right, because I bet the permitting process can be a nightmare.
It can be, yeah. So we need to make it easier for developers to get the green light.
Okay, so policy, that's one piece. What about innovation?
So with innovation, it's all about pushing the boundaries of geothermal technology. Exploring those super hot rock systems, developing more efficient drilling techniques, and coming up with better energy storage solutions.
So basically, investing in research and development to make geothermal even better.
Exactly. And then the third piece, collaboration.
Collaboration, okay.
Yeah, we need collaboration between different stakeholders. Governments, industry, researchers, communities. We all need to work together to make this happen.
It sounds like a team effort.
It is. The future of geothermal energy, it's in our hands.
I'm definitely feeling inspired by all of this geothermal energy. It could really be a game changer.
It could, yeah. It's abundant, it's reliable, and it has the potential to meet so many of our energy needs.
From electricity to heat to energy storage, it's pretty amazing.
It is. And the next few decades are going to be really exciting for geothermal.
Well, before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one more thing I wanted to ask you about. The report, it mentions this connection between geothermal and, the electric vehicle revolution.
What do you mean?
Specifically, it talks about producing lithium for EV batteries from geothermal sources.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I almost forgot about that. It's pretty wild.
So we've talked about geothermal for electricity and heating, even energy storage. And now you're telling me it can help us produce lithium for, like, electric car batteries? I'm all ears.
Yep, that's right. It might seem kind of strange at first, this connection, but remember those hot mineral-rich waters we talked about? That geothermal brine?
Uh-huh.
Well, it turns out that brine often has lithium in it, dissolved lithium.
So the same brine that's used to make electricity in geothermal plants could also be a source of lithium. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like a 2-for-1 deal. And it gets even better.
Oh, how so?
There are these new technologies. They're called direct lithium extraction, or DLE. And they let us take the lithium out of the brine in a much more sustainable and efficient way than, traditional lithium mining.
DLE, huh? Sounds high-tech. What's that all about? How does it work?
So think about traditional lithium mining. You got those huge open pit mines.
Yeah, I've seen pictures. They're massive.
I know, right? And then there are those giant evaporation ponds.
Which aren't great for the environment, I'm guessing.
Nope, not really. They can have some pretty big impacts. DLE, though, it's different. It uses these special materials, these absorbent materials.
Absorbent materials, like a sponge.
Yeah, kind of like that. They
Right.
basically soak up the lithium from the brine.
So it's like a high-tech filter.
Yeah, exactly. And it means we don't have to dig up entire mountainsides or create those massive evaporation ponds.
That sounds way better for the environment.
Oh, yeah. Much cleaner.
Yeah.
And more efficient, too.
Okay, I'm impressed. But how much lithium can we actually produce this way? From geothermal sources. Can it really make a difference? Like, globally?
Well, the report suggests it can, yeah.
Yeah.
Some projections show that by 2035, geothermal lithium production could meet a good chunk of the demand.
Wow, that's huge, especially as the demand for EVs keeps growing.
Yeah, exactly. And think about it, this could also help reduce our reliance on lithium imports.
Right, because right now a lot of the lithium comes from other countries.
Yeah, so this could help create more resilient supply chains,
And make us less dependent on those other sources. That's a big deal, especially for, like, the U.S. and Europe.
Yep, the report actually says that the U.S. and Europe could potentially produce like 5 times their current lithium supply from geothermal sources alone.
5 times. That's incredible. So geothermal, it's clean energy, heat, energy storage, and now a sustainable source of lithium for EV batteries. It's like the gift that keeps on giving.
I know, right? It's pretty
Love it.
amazing. When you think about all the ways geothermal can contribute to a cleaner, more sustainable future.
Okay, I'm officially a geothermal evangelist now. But seriously, if it has all these benefits, why isn't it already more widespread?
Well, there's still some challenges, yeah. Like with geothermal lithium, for example. We need more research and development to make those DLE technologies even better,
And bring the costs down, I imagine?
Yeah, costs are always a factor. And we also need to make sure that the whole process is done sustainably.
Right, that's important. We don't want to harm those geothermal reservoirs or the surrounding environment.
Exactly. We need to be responsible about it.
But overall, it seems like geothermal has a really bright future.
I think so, too. It offers a path to a cleaner, more sustainable world.
And it's not some far-off technology, right? It's here, it's now.
Exactly. We just need to tap into its full potential.
And speaking of tapping into its potential, what can our listeners do, to support the growth of geothermal energy?
Well, first of all, stay informed. Read that IEA report we've been talking about. Keep up with the latest news and developments,
Right, because knowledge is power.
Exactly. And then talk about it. Share what you've learned.
Spread the geothermal gospel.
Exactly. The more people understand the potential of geothermal, the more support we'll have.
Okay, so stay informed, spread the word. What about concrete actions? Is there anything listeners can do in their own lives?
For sure. They can contact their elected officials, advocate for policies that support geothermal development.
Like tax credits or funding for research?
Yeah, exactly. And they can look into investing in geothermal companies or projects, if that's something they're interested in.
And for homeowners, what about geothermal heat pumps? Those are a thing, right?
Yep, heat pumps are a great option. They're super efficient for heating and cooling.
So maybe some of our listeners could look into getting one installed.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Every little bit helps.
It's all about making informed choices, right? And supporting the transition to a cleaner energy future.
That's the key. It's not just about technology, it's about people.
It's about all of us working together to create a more sustainable world.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the fascinating world of geothermal energy and its potential to revolutionize how we power our lives.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. We've talked about electricity, heat, energy storage, even lithium production for EVs. Geothermal energy, it's a truly multifaceted and transformative force.
It really is. And it's been a pleasure diving into all of this with you.
Likewise. And to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep the conversation going. Geothermal energy, it's a powerful solution. It's ready to be unleashed. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the heart of our planet and the heart of a cleaner energy future.